Yeah, that's right, y'all. It is the morning shift, CHUO89.1FM. I go by the name of Dynamic, aka your favorite light skin, holding it down for the morning shift crew. Your source for hip-hop and R&B in the morning. The #1 hip-hop and R&B show in the Ottawa, Gatineau area. And of course, this part of the show, we get to chop it up with somebody really representing the hip-hop culture in a major way. And our next guest is an award-winning poet. He's a creative entrepreneur. He's also, just overall a dope artist. He's got bars, you know what I mean? We got JustJamaal holding it down with us here on the morning shift. Thank you for holding it down on the morning shift with us this morning.
Much love. Thank you for having me. It's been a minute, man. It's been a minute.
I mentioned the bars thing, and I said that because, sometimes poets don't necessarily go hard with the bars. They got the lyrics. They're smooth with the words. You're good with the bars and all of that. Where did bars come in for you?
Man, bars didn't come in until later on. Poetry, like spoken word and the written word from page poetry, was my first love, and I didn't add that the rap, the rhythm in poetry. I didn't add the rhythm until I was about 17, 18, and that's when I was listening to Bone Thugs, and when I heard Bone Thugs and how they use poetically, their stories to express themselves, and rhythmically too as well, because obviously with Bone Thugs, in Bone Thugs and Harmony, they had harmony and rhythm and meter. This is what I knew that this was something that was part of who I am. So it was a natural segue from writing poetry to writing raps, right? And I listened to music, with my father raised me up on some good music. So it was a natural segue, but it was around 17. It was way past the time when all the other kids in my neighborhood were listening to rap and knew all the Wu-Tang and knew all the, NWA songs and stuff. And for me, it was just like, this is what I want to do. So I started writing rap.
What was the moment like? What was that mood like when you found out that you were Ottawa's Poet Laureate?
Wow, that's the memory kind of stuck with me. I was driving in my car. My kids were in the ride with me, and I was having a particularly bad day. I was just thinking about the future of myself as a career artist, someone who's pursuing art full time. And it was at that time, late 2016, just a really rough time for me because the transition was difficult. And I got the phone call on my phone, so I hit my Bluetooth, and my children are all listening, and it was someone from the city, telling me that they selected me out of hundreds of applications, hundreds of nominees for the position. And it was no word of a lie. Because I was having such a rough transition, I started to cry. My children were there, they were listening, and so it was a really profound moment, because coming from where I come from and growing up, I never thought I would have had the position to represent, myself like that in the city. So shout out to obviously the city of Ottawa, and shout out to VerseFest for selecting me for the position.
Now, you're somebody within our city, within our community here in Ottawa that's been very successful with getting grants in the past. When it comes down to these new artists out here, what's like a piece of advice that you would give them, in them getting a grant, or what they need to do to go get a grant?
They have to find ways to diversify their craft. And, even the biggest artists are doing it right now. The biggest artists, in order to sustain themselves and to be marketable and to break open different markets, they're finding different ways to use their platform, their craft to, find ways to sustain themselves. Like Rick Ross is worth about 80 million, but don't think Rick Ross just raps. He's got all sorts. Actually, I think he's worth about 40 million, but he's got all sorts of other ventures going on. And I think the earlier you can do that without watering down your actual main craft, the better you find yourself opening doors and people paying attention to what your main thing is.
If I want to get into a record from you, we've played this here on the morning shift. It's such a dope vibe. The one is called The City. How did this record come about for you?
Well, I kind of felt like at one point I needed to tell my story about growing up in the city of Ottawa, because Ottawa often gets, compared to like Montreal and Toronto and the West Coast, we get this, people think that the city is soft, that it doesn't have areas and pockets of, areas that are really hard to grow up in and, with difficult circumstances. And I grew up in one of those areas, and I had my own experiences. So in the first verse, I tell a partial story of what my experience was like. And I don't reveal everything because I have another song coming up that I'm going to reveal more. The second verse, I talk about the things that I witnessed from my peers and my community. And then the third verse, I go more like national, like talk about some of the, complications of this country in and of itself. So each verse kind of talks about, how hard it is being of a certain environment growing up in this city.
All right, well, we're going to get into that record right now here on The Morning Shift, CHUO 89.1 FM. The record is called The City. Let's go, y'all.